items.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Daryl. And I have my PowerPoint running in main mode here. So Daryl, if you see any questions that pop up along the way that I don't happen to see on my screen, please feel free to let me know. I would love at the end especially, but feel free to if you have questions during it. But if we have any questions at the end, I will be sticking around after the presentation. So if anything comes up that you wished I had gone over or you want more details about, please do ask those questions. So today's webinar is called Network Pro Tips, Come Off as Confident, Not Cocky. We're going to be talking about using bios as a way of networking in order to build up a community of mentors, why networking is so important, and how these communication skills are key in building up your business or professional network. And I'm also going to talk about a little bit about, as an entrepreneur, how I have used these networking skills for the benefit of my own company, but a similar, it will be true also for you if you happen to be an employee or be running through the business career trajectory. Just a bit of housekeeping here as we're getting started. I'd love to be connected with you. We'll have the slide at the end too. But I do share these professional leadership development tips every week on my IEEE USA Insight weekly blogs. There's a new blog article every Tuesday, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I share these articles in that forum too. On Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram, my handle is @JaxEngineers. Love to connect with you. So here's a little bit about me. I figured it would be bad starting out a presentation about using bios if I didn't use my own bio, my own professional bio, to introduce myself. So I did go to Case Western Reserve University, where I studied computer engineering. I am the founder of Bristol. It's an engineering consulting firm that transforms corporations through employee development and organizational change management. I'm also an IEEE senior member, and I'm the vice chair of IEEE's continuing education program. In addition to that, some of the other things that I've done, I actually started a scholarship program at my alma mater, Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. I already mentioned that I started an engineering consulting firm, and I started a 501c3 nonprofit. It was the U.S. branch of an international nonprofit called Teredo Ma. And one of the things that allowed me to start a scholarship program, start my own company, start a nonprofit is the ability to first create a network and then be able to engage with that network and share my ideas with them that in a way that is compelling and in a way that's able to bring others on board. So I wanted to start off this presentation by talking about how I've been able to leverage the skill of building up my own network to be able to achieve these things. And then because of that, I've received some acknowledgement by my college in the industry and in the business sector. But again, the main thing here is the ability to conceive an idea for a new organization and to see it through to fruition. And this was largely due to having a supportive network and being able to speak passionately to those within my community. So over the next few slides here, we'll look at some of the steps that I did in order to build that network and relay my passions to others. As I mentioned from the very beginning, a key component of that for me has been creating a bio. Now, originally, when I heard about bios, I personally thought they were only for public speakers. Maybe it's that introduction paragraph you hear before a conference speaker walks on stage. I only created mine because Girl Scouts asked me for one, but it was interesting because after I created it for them to introduce me, I started using it all of the time. I don't know about you, but I've often received messages from people on LinkedIn saying very generic statements like, I'd like to expand my network. Would you be open to connecting? For me, when people send generic statements and provide me no background information about them, I'm not very inclined to engage. It just doesn't intrigue me. It feels like something that's been copied and pasted, and there's nothing really original or unique in what they're saying. And one thing I've started doing is using bios as a helpful way to form a new connection with somebody that I find interesting and I want to be interested in me. So I also I'll use bios when I want to meet somebody that's completely outside of my network, but I'll also use my bio when I'm being introduced to someone by a mutual friend. One thing that I've noticed is that sometimes when a friend offers to do an introduction to somebody that I want to meet, a leader in the industry, someone I've heard about, somebody I've read their work, there's, again, very good intention there, but it actually takes a lot of work and a lot of effort to do a thoughtful introduction. And sometimes the negative impact of that is either they don't get around to it, even though they had the best of intentions, or they send a very generic introduction like you two should meet each other, and it becomes somewhat awkward, and again, there's lack of follow-up there. What I'll often do is if somebody volunteers to connect me with someone else in their network, I'll send them a follow-up email, and I'll send them my bio. And 9 times out of 10, within 24 hours, they'll send me that introduction email. They'll connect me with that person because I've made it so much easier for them by doing a lot of the work in crafting that introduction. So now that we've talked about the purpose of these bios, let's look at what a bio is, what it should do. You already saw one example of mine from the very beginning. I've had friends when I've talked to them about bios or asked them if they've had a bio before, they've asked me, pushed back on me and said, well, I have a resume. Isn't that good enough? And a bio is very different from a resume. In a resume, we've got a very specific format to that. With a bio, you're crafting your story. You're looking at what you've done, your history, your background, your experience, your expertise, your passions, your hobbies. And you're crafting that, you're honing that into a story that you want to share with someone else. And hopefully it's a story being told in an intriguing manner. That being said, it's a story and not a book. I've seen some bios that are quite extensive, and it can get a little bit dull as you're trying to make it through there. Nobody, maybe not even your own mom, wants to read your long formatted bio. So you want to keep it short and intriguing. You want to sell yourself, so you're going to make it engaging. And you want to be thoughtful and purposeful about how you're framing your story. So let's look at a slightly different version of my bio than what we've used in the very beginning. This was an actual email that I sent to somebody that I had recently connected with on LinkedIn. If you'll notice in this intro email, I kept it really short. Now, sometimes when I'm doing this follow-up email, I will scan through their profile or I'll do a Google search on them, and I'll reference something about them that I found interesting or that I find pertinent to our discussion or what I want to follow up with them on. And it just shows that I've done my due diligence research. You don't have to do that every single time, but it's a nice and thoughtful step that if you get a chance to do, it's usually appreciated. The main point, though, is to keep it pretty short, keep it fairly simple. Some people, when they do the initial follow-up, do a long kind of running on stream of consciousness, and that can be a bit much for the initial interaction. And then I just include a little sentence at the end that says, I'm including my short bio below so you can see my background. Suggested we meet up for coffee and say, hope to hear from you soon. Short, sweet, to the point, but provides enough of a background to hopefully be intriguing. Now, note that I said at the beginning of the slide that I have different bios that I use. So 2 of my main versions of my bio are a personal bio, which focuses a little bit more heavily on my philanthropic organizations that I'm a part of, my passions, my hobbies, such as international travel and mountain climbing, versus a more business-oriented one like this one, where I'm talking about my passion for teaching. Maybe I'm touching on the philanthropic side by mentioning that I taught high school math in Swahili, but since I am an engineering corporate trainer, or I work with engineering corporations on their training, this is still very pertinent to my profession. Now, one thing that makes my particular bio unique is that mention of Swahili, and then the mentioning of some of the awards and recognitions. I've heard some of my friends, when I'm helping them draft their bio, they've said, well, I shouldn't write a bio because I don't have that. I don't necessarily, I haven't done what you've done. And to that I say, thank goodness for that. Because if all of our bios looked like each other's, then again, it would be very boring. So the purpose of it is not to write a bio like mine, or not for me to try to write a bio like somebody else's, but to figure out your own unique story and to tell it in an intriguing way, whatever that looks like. But just don't go through and tell I did this, 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 and now I'm here. Again, that's not what we're here for. That's not going to cause somebody to get excited. So just figure out, take some time and craft something that tells your story, tells your experience, tells your accomplishments in a unique way, and feel free to play with that over time. Make small tweaks, make different versions for different occasions, and see what resonates with other people. Now, because I have a bio, I was able to expand my network by either having others introduce me to different leaders that I wanted to meet, or doing these self-introductions like I just mentioned. And so I've been able to build up a wonderful community of mentors. And these are people that I have been bouncing my ideas and my thoughts off of, some for a couple of years, some for a couple of decades. And for me personally, that has been a huge hand up to help get me to where I am today, being able to rely on their expertise and their experiences, because my mentors come from a lot of different backgrounds. Some of them are corporate executives in HR, some are diplomats, some are lawyers, some are investors, some are university professors. But again, it helps me because I can rely on their expertise, and I have that trusted relationship with them that's been built up over a period of time. So why have a community of mentors? Well, they can advise you on complex work issues. This was particularly important to me back when I was an employee in corporate America, because when I was first starting out, I was taking on new assignments, and I was so laser focused on my assignments and getting them done on the deadline that was provided to me. And even though I wasn't a good employee, even though I was a good worker, I dreamed of more. And my mentors, when I was doing skip level meetings, challenged the way that I was looking at my projects and helped me see it in a more holistic perspective. So they helped me look at the work that I was doing as part of the overall system. And this type of perspective and the questions that need to be asked to consider it from this perspective takes time and it takes some exercise. So I'm glad I had those conversations so that I was able to begin to think like a leader and so that I could start acting like a leader. Another advantage of mentors, so I wouldn't recommend this early on in the mentorship process, but once you've developed that trust in the relationship and built it up, they can also provide some great intros to people within their own networks. So it really gives you a great expanded network when you invest in creating these mentorship relationships. Now, just like I write in my articles for Lessons on Leadership on the Insight IEEE USA site, some of the things that I'd recommend doing with your mentors, because again, this is a working relationship, is checking in regularly. So that can be once a month, that could be once a quarter. Again, it depends on that specific mentor. I always provide updates and results. That's something that actually has, for me, when I didn't have people I was mentoring follow up with me to let me know after they came to me for advice and we talked over a situation, I didn't hear back from them afterwards, I realized how important it was and how crucial to that ongoing relationship it had been for me to always, whether it's through email, whether it's a phone call, send my mentors some kind of follow-up when they had advised me on a specific situation, letting them know how it went. If it was positive, obviously I expressed gratitude and appreciation for their perspective, and made sure they knew that I wouldn't have been able to get those results without them. If it didn't turn out well, I still informed them of that. Again, we're all curious. There's an intrinsic interest to know how things turn out. So I would let them know the results. Sometimes they would get back to me and provide additional steps or suggested follow-up. But again, that was part of this reciprocal relationship here, is giving them those updates. So mentorship is definitely not a one-way relationship. It should be a two-way relationship. Continuing on with networking, one of the things I've noticed is some people get very nervous when it comes to networking. Just the idea of going into an event, especially with professional networking, walking into an event and trying to promote yourself can put people on edge, especially if you maybe don't know anybody, you're not used to this. So it's important to keep in mind that it's good to be passionate, it's good to be engaging, but at the same time, it's not all about you. So we've probably all been at some type of happy hour networking event where somebody's just doing a ton of self-promotion and it's extremely cringy and awkward. So one thing that's really important when you're networking is don't only be interesting, be interested. And it's amazing how many people will gravitate towards somebody who is actually a good listener. We sometimes get used to people just waiting for you to finish speaking so that they can make their point. But if you really are just engaged in being an active listener, that can really resonate with people and be the beginning of a really intriguing interaction. And it can be surprising what you'll learn. So don't be self-involved, don't be boring, be engaging. Some things to consider or at least that I consider before walking into a networking event, is I just take a moment before I go in so I can think about, what's my overarching purpose for engaging in this particular event. Um, so is there anybody specific I'm looking to meet? Am I challenging myself to just engage with 3 people in the next hour or so? Why did I choose to come to this event? And what's my overall goal walking into it? So I'd also recommend sometimes, at least for me, I have to remind myself that I have to invest time and energy into building up relationships organically. You can't force this. I know that when I first got started within IEEE, I had high hopes of what those business relationships would look like. And after about the second local section meeting that I went to, I was frustrated that I wasn't making what I would consider lifelong friends. There are no lifelong bonds there. But by continuing to show up over time, I have built these great, wonderful relationships and really expanded my networking within IEEE. But again, if I had gone in with this false sense of entitlement of what, I'm putting myself out there, this is what I should be able to get from this, then I really would have walked away disappointed after those first initial couple of interactions. Keep in mind that building up a network can be part of your overall life. So I do networking socially, I do it philanthropically during my volunteer services, and in my business. So for me, it's become an integrated part of my life. And I appreciate that side of it because it makes me, I think, a more genuine, more well-rounded person. I would also, even though I'm open to attending lots of different types of networking events, I've learned to be choosy about the networking events and networking groups that I participate in that work for me, because there are a lot of options out there with network out of work, again, happy hours, you go to conferences and there's always ones, and in your local community there can be events too. When I was living in Denver, there was networking groups where it was small business owners who would meet together for lunch once a month, and it was the same group, and they would pass around their business cards, and a lot of them were realtors and bankers or jewelry makers. And after the first time, maybe I went 2 times, but I realized these are the same individuals. I think it was the second time that I realized these are the same individuals I saw last month, and these aren't ideal clients for my company's engineering services. So even though I appreciate that these are all small business owners who are all out here doing the hustle, this wasn't an ideal setup for me and my business. So it's good to network, but it's also good to be purposeful and mindful about your networking. And now I'm going to go into a little bit about how leveraging my bio, having great mentors, networking has come together in order to help me start a business. Now, again, I think all of these, what we've talked about so far, can be just as helpful if you're an employee, if you're in corporate America, to build a successful career trajectory and to continue on that pathway. But from my side, I did leave corporate America almost 5 years ago at this point, and then started my own company. So how I've leveraged these networking skills in order to aid me with that process. Because starting your own business, it is exciting and it's challenging, but it can also be very scary. There are a lot of unknowns when starting your own business. There are a lot of things to decide. So you go into more detail on every aspect of the work environment, from deciding the budget for marketing to determining what your sales goals are for that year. So as a business owner, you have to think all these things out, and it can be difficult to know where to start, and it can be overwhelming. So I also missed the camaraderie of my corporate workplace. So I am an extrovert. Um, so I miss that water cooler chatter. Um, Sales are felt more immediately when you're the one running the business, and it's your bank account that's going to be affected if you're not pulling in those clients. There's higher risk and higher stress. And so having that pre-built up network and community of engineers and business leaders and HR people was critical for me as I was launching my new business and exploring all these territories and having to deal with situations and having to deal with all these different aspects of work life that I had never experienced before. So like I was mentioning, starting a business is important. The importance of networking is crucial. It can also be crucial in attracting new clients. So when you're starting out, it's pretty common to get clients from within your network or from within your expanded network as you're advertising your services on LinkedIn, as you're making people aware of what your business is doing. So you need to remain interconnected and be engaged within that community, within that industry. I've already mentioned that the community offers advice, support, and a feeling of belonging because you no longer have those day-to-day interactions with colleagues. And to be honest, during that first year or two, again, like I said, that network was huge. Whenever I experienced a stumble, relying on that network for encouragement, or even when I did land the next client, I wanted to celebrate that win. And so it was important that I had that strong network that I felt like I could share those exciting moments with. So like I mentioned, I said I would include some of my contact information here at the end. I'd love to connect with you, but I'd also love to hear if you have any questions on this information I've shared here on building that network. Daryl, or does anybody else have any questions?
No one has typed any questions just yet. I have a question.
Okay.
You had mentioned bios in terms of being an effective tool of networking. Did you, when you were writing your first bio, did you have problems writing about yourself in the third person? Was that something difficult for you, or?
Oh, of course. It's completely awkward, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So, yes. Yeah, because you feel very, at least I felt very corny and a little bit narcissistic, and I didn't know where I was going with it. So again, and my bio that I wrote the first time looks very different from where my bio is at now. My bio is actually much more streamlined now than it was before. So it just kind of drug on. But yeah, it was a very difficult process. But I'm glad I was forced to do it by Girl Scouts. Otherwise, like I said, I wouldn't have done it, and I wouldn't have realized what a powerful tool it was.
Well, and so you find that effective in terms of especially doing introductories just on LinkedIn, or just in terms of regular emails when you're talking with people, you include your bio as a icebreaker, or?
Great question. So actually, 6 months ago, I mostly use my bios in email format. One example of how I used my bio is 6 months ago, I picked up and moved to a new community across the U.S. And so when I got over here, I knew a couple of individuals, but not that many. And so I wanted to be connected within IEEE locally. I wanted to reach out to the political leaders. I wanted to reach out to the leaders in the business sector. So I found I reached out to the Chamber of Commerce and got some of the emails, got different contact information from different people. But I would do that short little intro like you saw on the email example I provided. I'd mention that I'm new in town, and then I'd include my bio at the bottom and suggest we meet up for coffee, lunch, whatever. But I think when I moved here, I think it was everybody, but if not, there might have been one person out of the 20 emails that did not respond to that. So again, it's been incredibly helpful, the number of people and the range of people that have followed up with me just because I took the extra step and provided a well-crafted introduction.
Oh, wow, wow. Oh, we just got a question.
Great.
It says, thank you for mentioning local IEEE sections. I'm volunteering with my IEEE sections, my local IEEE section. Do you recommend any other meetups or other networks?
I did enjoy Network After Work. I did that when I was new to the area. Let's see. This was back when I was in Denver. There was some kind of meetup app that I was on. This was more hobbies based. If anybody else knows the name of it, feel free to help me out here because I am blanking on this now. Let's see. Getting involved in chamber activities. Again, as a business owner, that's been something that I've been interested in. I use volunteering, such as being on the board of directors with Girl Scouts and being on the board of directors with the Colorado State Science Fair as networking opportunities. So the great thing about those is they can be philanthropic, and you also get to meet new people. And besides that, it's more like sports and social based. Yeah, and I think I've also done some, especially when I was new at being a business owner, I looked into, there's a lot of entrepreneurial group meetups. So those were the type of groups that I engaged at in the different ways over the past 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Wow, interesting. So when you said, excuse me, when you said that before you go into networking events, you contemplate why are you at that event, did you just start doing that, or did you, when you first started networking, or is it something that came to you as a, as you pursued, as you started networking and trying to get clients and things of that nature? I found that very interesting.
Yeah, actually, this piece of advice came to me from one of my mentors who's a corporate executive in HR. She actually said this to me in the capacity of before I walked into my company advisory board meeting, that I should have an idea of what I want to bring to the group, what I want to get from my advisory board members, and what my specific plan is. And I found that so interesting because, with your advisory board, it was a situation where I felt a little bit daunted because these are high capacity leaders, but her causing me to take a step outside of myself and to look at the situation and contemplate my goals really helped me deal with that stress that I had formerly been feeling when I walking into those quarterly meetings. And so I just started applying that into other areas of my life. And so that's what caused me to think about it before going into the next networking event that I went to. It was at a large conference. There was, tens of thousands of people attending this conference, and I was just nervous about walking in and not knowing anybody at that particular conference. So I was able to apply that advice again, and it just made a lot of sense to me.
Interesting. Well, I will hold on to that because I will definitely do that the next time I go into an event, and I know I need to network. Why am I there, and who do I need to meet, and those types of things.
It's good to step out of yourself and look at why you're doing what you're doing.
Most definitely, most definitely. Are there any last questions? Any questions that anyone has? Jacqueline, I'll say, do you have any last words for us?
No, I appreciate everyone attending and tuning in. Like I mentioned before, I do leadership blogs, professional development tips on the IEEE USA Insight. So there's a new post every Tuesday around 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know what time that would be in India or where you're at. But yeah, if you want to tune in and if you have any questions about those articles, there's a way for you to comment on those. But I'd love to hear from you.
Most definitely. And I should say we'll also be bringing Jacqueline back to do some more webinars for IEEE USA. So hopefully you come back for that. I see no more questions. I did want to add, someone did throw in that participating in an IEEE USA committees also provides networking opportunities for folks. Those people.
Great point. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah, so we will definitely put that plug in there. And so, Jacqueline, I want to say thank you so much, and we look forward to the next time. Thanks, everyone, for attending our webinar, and we look forward to you joining again very soon, okay?
Thanks for having me, Darrell. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.